Welcome to Big Blend Radio, second Tuesday food, wine, and travel writing show, travel show with the International Food, Wine, Travel Writers Association. We do this every second Tuesday and every second Friday. We get to talk with destinations around the world and travel writers and photographers. We have so much fun doing these shows. I encourage you to go to their website. It's ifwtwa.org. Today, we are excited to welcome Elsa-Van-Der-Byl. She's in Bloemfontein in South Africa, and we're very excited because we used to live in South Africa. Nancy ran a magazine in South Africa. I graduated high school in South Africa, and her book is out. She's got a tour company. She takes small
It's
tours.
like being home.
Yeah, small tours to South Africa, and her new memoir is out. It's called Hippos-Hotspots and Homelands, an educator's journey in South Africa during apartheid and beyond. I encourage you to go to her website. It's travelswithelsa.com. The book is on Amazon, but go right to her website to get to know Elsa some more because she's got some great articles about her adventures. So welcome. Hoe gaan dit met jou, Elsa?
Dit gaan baie goed, dankie. Lekker om Afrikaans te praat.
We had to put a little Afrikaans in there, because I know it's interesting. Your background as an educator in English, I know you speak all these different languages. And when I was in high school, I was always the immigrant there because we lived in England before that and Kenya before that. So when we got to school, they go, "Oh, you're an immigrant. You don't need to know Afrikaans."
No.
And then all of a sudden, I had to know Afrikaans. And I took German at the same time, and that did not go so well. But you can speak both, so I applaud you.
Yes, I love languages, yes, but I wish that I had the opportunity to learn the Black languages properly, But unfortunately, moving around, you pick up a smattering. But that's sometimes enough to get by.
That's really true. We spoke Swahili when we were in Kenya, but it was really just speaking Swahili with the people, and not knowing. Yeah, they didn't teach it in school. I think maybe Kosa when I was in Port Elizabeth. And you said Port Elizabeth changed its name?
Yeah.
Yes, it's now, if I pronounce it correctly, I think it's Gabega or Gabega.
Gabega. Oh, we got to do the clicks. Oh my gosh, I love that.
Yeah, see, that's the hard part. It's the clicking. I mean, because there's different tones to the clicks, and it's like, wow.
Yes, and if you click, in front of the mouth, or you click in the back of the mouth, or in the roof of the mouth, it all changes the meaning of the word depends how you click.
You really got to be careful.
Yeah,
Don't click unless you know how. You can get in trouble.
Oh my God.
I've got a lovely story about the clicking in the book where the school principal heard the clicking and thought there was a dog drinking water somewhere, and he found it was the parents having a class, and they were all practicing their clicks. He thought it was a dog drinking water.
And then there's also the snapping of the fingers. Sometimes, but I used to go to different schools. Sometimes they would snap fingers. The kids, the real young ones,
we used to do this all the time.
Yeah,
was that a South African thing?
Not so much South African. I found that with the Gullah people in the South, South Carolina.
Oh wow!
Stepping, and they would have clapping and clicking, and that very difficult.
Wow!
Yeah.
No, we haven't done that in South Carolina yet. I've been dying to go and get involved in the Gullah culture, and there's a national parks all associated with that and preserving that heritage and culture, and that's something you're very close to in South Africa. I think the year I graduated was 91. Oh, did I tell everybody? But I've been out of high school for 30
years. At the
years.
Same time.
I know we were there at the same time, and we've stepped on each other's footsteps, and we probably met. Who knows? But
we might have.
I think
you never know.
My last year of high school was the last year of segregation in the schools, and that was such a big deal. And so that's something that you went through, even on the college aspect, right? Because South African politics, no matter how you look at it, that's so hard to explain to people, and I don't want to because it's hard. But you did it very well in your book.
Yeah, well, I tried not to make it too pedantic or too historic, but still in context, so that people would understand what it was like to be an ordinary citizen during those times of change, And obviously, if you read the book, you will see that we were held hostage by students, but it was political motivations and times of change, and you couldn't take things personally, really, which it was difficult, of course, yes. But interesting times. And I couldn't do otherwise but to pen those memories, especially since I lived in various parts of the country. And each part where I lived was a different culture. It was the Xhosa, and then it was the South Sotho, and then it was the Shangaan. And also, even being Afrikaans speaking, even the British culture was also new to me when I moved to King Williamstown.
That's what you're talking about. That's King Williamstown. Is about the hippo. And I kind of remember this story now, reading your memoir, going, I kind of remember that story. And I think there's a town in Texas near Austin called Hutto. And this town has is it Henrietta, the hippo that was on a train in the 1930s, on a circus train, and jumped the train and went into a pond outside of Austin. And so now the town has over 3,000, I think, cement sculptures that all the artists have painted around the town for Henrietta, the hippo. And reading the story about the hippo in King Williamstown, because I even remember King Williamstown, I'm like, I know I've got to have been there because it's not far from East London, right? And from and Grahamstown, where I went to school. And so I remember that story. Yeah.
Yeah, you better. They thought it was a male hippo, but when she was, later they discovered she was actually a female, so her name changed to Huberta, not Hubert.
Yes, see, now this is interesting. In the San Diego Zoo, a female hippo broke out. The hippos like females, like, I'm going, whether I don't care about your fence or your bars. She went out and she used the railroad tracks and went into a farmer's pond across the road and stayed there till they could figure out how to get her back. But the hippos seem to be, especially the females, like, I want to move, I'm moving.
Yeah, well, the thing is, you don't get into the hippo's path because they are one of the two most dangerous animals in Africa,
I know, I've been charged by one. And it barfed on my car. It barfed on the hood of my car.
Oh my goodness me.
Barfed or barfed? Barfed, that's so American.
I threw up.
It threw up on the hood of my car.
That's a unique story. That would have landed in the book.
But Elsa, this hippo you're talking about, Huberta, tell everybody, because she's a nomad. That was a unique story.
I can't remember exactly how many miles she traveled, but she traveled from the middle of KwaZulu-Natal, the Durban area, Umfolozi Game Reserve, from that area. She traveled all the way down the East Coast, and she stopped by the golf club and frightened all the members and went to ponds. And eventually she was protected because people started to revere her, especially the Indian population and the Black people. And they started to attribute mythical sort of powers to her. So she was protected by the British. And then these farmers shot her. And they had to pay fines, and then she was sent to London for taxidermy. When after she was killed, they stuffed her and returned her to South Africa, and she landed in the King Williamstown Museum. And when she returned, thousands of people welcomed her back. So it's rather an interesting story. Yes.
Yeah, and she's in the museum there, right? So,
so the hippos are sort of one of the things of my book, referring to the wildlife, because I ended up living in the Sabi Sand Game Reserve as well as a nature reserve. So I have lots of adventures there. And then the hotspots, of course, refer to the crime and the student unrest and South African unrest in general, of which I experienced plenty, but always got out good and proper and well. And then the homelands, of course, would refer to, under the apartheid government, the different segregated areas where traditionally the Black people lived, because we have 9 groups of Black people, and traditionally they lived in certain areas. So they were really allocated those areas where they lived. And that is what the homelands refer to. All the different cultures.
I love that. And you explain the Cape Colored community, because people here will turn around and say, you said it colored. And I'm like, well, that's what they are. They're
colored.
And so when we were in Louisiana, we went to the Creole, it was like a heritage center, the Creole Heritage Center. And we learned that we were talking about South Africa, and they said, now it's going to be South Africa. That's going. My language, my accent's changing right now. But they said that really the Cape Coloreds were really, because of the Malay influence, because they're descendants of slaves. So you're explaining that. That they really are Creole in a way. We should.
So there are two groups of Cape Colored people, and under the South African, even today, there's a group classification: whites, coloreds, blacks, and Indians. Those are the 4 population groups in South Africa. Now, the coloreds was, as you say, from the Muslim descent, and then the other group is mixed. So, they're basically 2 groups,
But I think that's what makes the music and the food so good. It's multicultural.
Oh my gosh, yes, you can't beat the influence of the Cape Malay, especially cuisine, on our South African cuisine, like bobotie and curries and all the lovely spices. That was really.
I remember the bobotie, and you were posting photos, because this is the other part of what you do, is you take small groups over to Africa on tours. And I think the International Food Wine Travel Writers Association, I think that you should put a media tour together for them and take them. And I think that would be cool.
That would be great, because I've just returned from Zanzibar. I took a group of 9 Americans on tour now. We've just returned. I returned 3 days ago. In fact, it would have been 4 days, but because my COVID results didn't come back in time from Zanzibar, I had to spend another night in Kilimanjaro. And I was all alone in this huge lodge, because we're some of the first tourists back, and they welcome tourists with open arms. They are grateful to see tourists, because that's their livelihood,
Sure.
And anyway, so I came back a day late, but I had a wonderful time all alone in the lodge, and then we had a bit of a power outage. So I had this dark African sky with the Milky Way, and it was just fabulous.
Oh, wow.
But I went to the Spice Island, Zanzibar, and I went on a tour there with my group, and we were shown where you get your cinnamon from, and all these different spices. They took us around on the farm, and showed us. Amazing. Never realized it was so fascinating.
Yeah, because Zanzibar, isn't that where Freddie Mercury was born? Was in Zanzibar, from the band Queen.
I think so.
Might be.
I think it was Zanzibar.
I think so.
Yeah, I think it was Zanzibar, but we haven't been there. And I saw that you had Maasai dancers in Zanzibar, and I told Nancy, I'm like, Nancy, Elsa's watching Maasai jumping in Zanzibar. She goes, what are they doing there? And I said, well, they could travel.
We also had a python. There was also a python as a finale to the show, which made half of my group run away.
But this is interesting. You talk about snakes in the book, and that's something you really learn to live with in Africa. We've had so many experiences with it, but it is funny. You call people, go, hey, there's a snake on. Well, why do baboons, snakes, you got mating leopards on your rooftop? I mean, who knew that you'd things that go bump in the night?
Lion kill outside my lounge window while we're watching Beverly Hills on the TV.
These are the things that are not normal in everyday life. But the snake thing, that one guy got spat in the eye. I mean, that wasn't good, to get venom in the eye. That's not good.
That's right. Yeah. No. Just thank goodness my mother saw the spitting cobra and backtracked. Otherwise, my poor mother might have had a bit of a disaster there. But you talk about the Maasai. When we were in Tanzania, we of course visited a local village, and so we saw the Maasai jump there and in their natural environment. And I was surprised to find Maasai in Zanzibar, but we got the whole history behind that because they had a revolution in Zanzibar and revolted. And after the revolt, the population quadrupled, if not more, of people streaming in there. And then there was one guy who started a tourism place there, a hotel, and he imported some Maasai. And from then on, the Maasai also started moving there. Traditionally, it's not their territory, no.
Right.
It's interesting. Yeah. I miss the dances. I really do. And the music.
Yes,
That's
it's fun.
the music. And that was something you were very involved in as a music teacher and choir teacher. I know they say chorus here, don't they? It's choir.
Yeah. Choir in South Africa. Yeah, my South Sutu choir, they were very, very dear to my heart. It was a wonderful experience having them, as my choir members.
Well, they really have beautiful voices, and they have harmonies that I think it's hard to duplicate some of the harmonies that they have there.
What happens is they harmonize spontaneously. If you try and teach them an ordinary folk song, by the time I teach them the melody, they're already harmonizing as I teach them, so it's quite amazing.
It is.
Oh man. So Bloemfontein, you're back in Bloemfontein. And you even cover this about going to the Drakensberg, which we went to. We went to Golden Gate National Park too, and the Drakensberg Mountains. And what we try to share with people about South Africa is that I remember SATOR, the South African Tourism Agency, always promoted South Africa as a world in one country, and I still believe it is. And the Drakensberg is something people don't really think of South Africa having, like, it. We used to call it, wasn't it? I think even the resort we used to go to was called Little Switzerland, because it was like Little Switzerland.
Yes, that's Switzerland. Because there's lots of snow. It's high there. And you're right, South Africa has everything to offer.
It really does.
The cuisine is absolutely fabulous. People are always so surprised when you bring them to South Africa to see the high standard of living, beautiful hotels, bed and breakfast. You've got the wildlife, the fantastic lodges. Yes. And then you've got all the different cultures, which makes it so vibrant. And the atmosphere is so relaxed, and the relationships between population groups are so incredibly cool, So, I
was going to say how it is now, because when we were there, we left in 92, 93, I think it was when we left. And we went through things were getting restless, and of course we're American, it was time for us to come home, and we did go through some of, like, you were taken hostage. We went through a shopping mall, was it in Port Elizabeth at one point? The riots came in, and you're stuck in the restaurant. We're like, well, we have another cocktail.
We're in the food court.
My book actually covers the period now starting in 1994.
Yes.
Or not really. Wait a minute. I do start a little earlier. But when you talk about apartheid and the change, that is what is covered in the book until 2002, when I moved to America on a teaching contract.
Good girl. Yeah, there you are. But when being back over there now, a lot of people are very fearful of going and saying it's very dangerous. And I don't know, we've always lived in places that people always say that, and we kind of go, yeah, there's some stuff going on, but whatever, so we never really feel huge fear in any of the countries we've lived in. But how does it feel now?
No, exactly the same. I've brought about, must be 14, 15 groups to South Africa already. And not one of them, not one person has ever said that they felt fearful, It's always gone absolutely smoothly. I always say the tourist route, of course, is your safest route, because you go to the game park and you have electric fencing, and you have, all the wild animals and what have you. And the routes are quite, safe as can be. And you just have to be alert, like in any big city, really. And you stay
Right,
away from
it's true.
areas that you know, and
Right.
go with, I always recommend going with a South African because they know how to drive, they know, the unwritten rules and so on. Of course, I got to South Africa now when we had the other pandemic. I've been here now since July, and I couldn't travel outside Gauteng area because they closed the border, because of COVID. And then, of course, we had the disaster when Zuma was arrested, and we had the uprisings, but it was only in certain areas and very, very localized. So life goes on, and we don't feel threatened or all, and everything's sort of back to normal, so.
It's kind of get used to it, remember in Graaff-Reinet, we were in Graaff-Reinet, out by the quaggas, by those zebras. There was that zebra parker, that I think they were mountain zebras or something. And
Mountain zebra.
yeah. And we were out there, and we were in the downtown. It was Nancy, myself, and then one of her advertising sales reps for her magazine. And we got split up, and all of a sudden the riot came through, but it was more of a march. It wasn't anything really scary.
Was.
And to get over to Nancy and cross the street, you just joined. We both just got in there just to get at the flow, and then turned out when we got towards our hotel. And it was I don't know. I think it's a very interesting country in that you've got to understand, it's kind of when you think about what America is going through right now, it's kind of in a way similar, where you've got to hear everybody's story to understand. There's friction between cultures and everything, but I think the unity is they're trying, it's getting better and better from what I've been reading and hearing, but obviously the schools being integrated really, really helped, I think. And it was difficult at first from what I was reading. It's not that easy to do.
Yeah, you also see it on the television, for instance, what we call soapies. I don't know if I can't remember how we call that in
The Bold
America.
and the Beautiful. I remember that big thing there.
And it's integration, and there's usually a little bit of a lesson to be learned also, and I find it interesting to see how it evolved, so it's very multicultural now. We have, of course, 11 official languages, in South Africa. You have the 9 Black languages, English and Afrikaans. Oh, wow. So, most Black people, they majority actually speak Afrikaans, but I think it might have changed a little bit in the meantime now that it's more, say, English biased. And then they tried to introduce Black languages in schools, but it was hard to find enough teachers, of course, So, there's still problems to be overcome, but the television is very much biased towards Black languages too. Yeah.
Oh, when we were there was like 3 hours of this was the South African time. This was the English time. There was very little Black time. You know what I mean? As I remember Mnet. I don't remember that little box we had on our TV, and I don't think TV even ran all day long like it does now. I mean, now everyone's got Netflix and everything, but back then
DSTV, and they definitely are. It's a lot of Black languages. Yeah.
Wow. So listen, have you had any?
South Africa. Oh. Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, we only got television in South Africa in roughly 1975. We were way behind the rest of the world. And then it was very limited to only a religious program, a bit of news, the weather, and we had Three's Company.
I remember when Nancy did a tour with our artwork for about 2.5 years around South Africa, and I was homeschooled on the road with her, went to all these historic sites to really understand the history and the parks. And she was selling the artwork, and it was raising money for the National Cancer Association there. And it was really a cool experience. And I remember traveling around And it just when you're talking about, there's Three's Company, there's, all that. I remember we stayed on a farm up in Nancy, not Tabazimbi. Was it
Tabasindi.
It was Tabazimbi,
Tabasindi.
up in the north area. And we went through Kimberley. You know, your family's in Kimberley, where the Grootgat, the
Yeah.
Grootgat is.
Good
That's
for
the
you.
giant
Good for
hole.
you.
I remember staying in a really cool old hotel downtown. It was really really just very
Probably the
colonial.
Royal Hotel.
I think so. I think so. They had like really
It probably
velvety
was.
green, heavy curtains, and but anyway, the TV when we stayed on this farm on the Place, and on this farm, I remember there was a cattle farm. They had the big cattle with the big longhorns,
Longhorn.
and they had the vegetables and all of that stuff, and we kind of helped around and everything, and and they were on a generator, and they at that time the bathroom was even outside, and that was called the pink commer.
The pink comma.
The pink room if you went to the bathroom. But the generator was allowed to be on later on Saturday nights because it was the sucky. The farmer
sucky
couple, their
sucky.
elder got up, and the concertina band would come on. It was almost like the Lawrence Welk show you have in this country.
Pretty
And
close to that.
They would get up and start dancing in the
And
living room
dancing.
and doing their
Yeah.
It was cute.
it was the cutest thing. And so that was my introduction to South African TV. Was that?
My goodness me. Yeah, there's a saki means dancing. You know that in Afrikaans it's just saki because it imitates the concertina, saki.
Yeah, it's kind of, yeah. I remember it's like a lekker jol. But it's like
That's
a two-step.
right,
They're
yeah.
doing like a two-step, and the concertina is a big thing
Right.
that you don't. Here we have like the accordion, and the concertina is a little smaller, so it's part of that musical heritage over in South Africa.
Of course, I grew up with that because my dad was a famous singer and a comedian. He was
Yeah.
like Charlie Chaplin, and his name is actually still a household name in South Africa, Piet Pompies, and that's actually why I wrote under my maiden name. I'm really Elsa Dixon, but my dad was Pieter-Van-Der-Byl, and I wrote his memoir, his biography actually. And so I decided to just stay with the name when I wrote another book.
Piet Pompies.
Van Der Byl.
When I was reading that, I was like, I can remember this. Piet Pompies.
That's right. People know his name is still, it's used now.
That's cool.
Say you have to fill out a form, then they say, name Piet Pompies, So, yeah, he was a comedian, ventriloquist, magician, professional photographer. He wrote over 300 songs. We still get royalties for 3 of the songs. So that was my background.
Wow. So that's
very
connected to
cool.
what you do. You talk about your dad taking photographs of the Malay people you were saying at school. So do you think that connects back to what you do now as, a travel writer, photographer? I mean, it's still all education. Comedy is part of teaching too, I believe.
I think the love of different people and the way my dad connected with different groups, I think we learned to be outgoing and reaching out to other people and wanting to please other people.
You made reference to the gods must be crazy. Remember that?
Yummy Ace.
Yes.
Oh my God. That's people when they say, "Oh, you lived in South Africa. Have you seen this movie?" I think we all have. Lived there. That was
the other movie I made reference to was Invictus, of course. That is one of my favorite movies now. Invictus, where with the rugby, where
that's right.
Oh, rugby.
Della wore the Springbok captain's rugby shirt, and through that simple gesture, he actually reached across to all the Afrikaner people and made a connection, and that was a very reconciliatory gesture. Yeah.
When I was in high school, the very beginning was in Port Shepstone. Was Standard 6. It was in Port Shepstone, and that was English. And then there was Saint Natal, which was the Afrikaans school, because it wasn't just segregation of black and white and Indian and, colored. It was separated between the languages, and
Oh,
the rugby got really high, like heated between the British and
Yeah,
the
it's
Afrikaners.
fierce.
It
It's
was like the
fierce.
Boer War on
Yes.
I know.
and I look at
fierce.
American football and everybody's like, this is such a
Yeah.
dangerous sport. I think it is, but I'm like, you've not seen anything unless you go to South
Yeah,
Africa and
exactly.
see a rugby match between the Dutch and the British.
That's
for sure.
that's
They sort
danger.
of stitch them up halfway through, and then
I
they sit them
know,
back on
right
the
there.
field.
And there's no padding. I mean, if they changed that,
No, there's nothing.
I think they now wear something on their teeth, which they sort of spit out every now and again and put back again. And I only saw one guy. I saw him, my brother made me watch rugby with him 2 nights ago, which was fabulous, at my biltong. And, they often have clementines, nachos, and they peel it. And if they get really mad, they'll throw the peels at the
nachos. I remember the nachos. Yeah, nachos.
Yeah.
Oh, and we used to have, I remember because Fanta orange was not in this country for a while. And then when we lived in Mexico, the first thing I saw was Fanta orange. And I was like, well, where's the nachi? I want my Fanta nachi. But Cook Sisters, have you had Cook Sisters since you've been back in the country?
Oh yes, I have my favorite things that I go for immediately when my feet touch the soil here. I must have a meat pie, a sausage roll,
sausage,
rusk,
Oma marmalade biscakes.
Almost rusk,
biscakes.
And then you've had a proper braai. I've got to have had a proper braai.
I just had a braai. In fact, I stood up from the dining room table. We had a late braai because we visited the Anglo-Boer Museum in Bloemfontein today. And so we had a late breakfast and then a late barbecue, a braai. Yeah, so I did have it. But it was a fantastic museum. And, I sort of mentioned in my book the enmity between the Afrikaans and English speaking. And this museum shows a lot of the concentration camps that the British put the Boers in, during those years, scorched earth policy when they burnt the farms and put the black laborers into the concentration camps. This was way before the Nazi concentration camps. But we never learned about it at school,
I was going to say, that never came out anywhere.
No,
that's actually the first time I've heard of it. I didn't hear any of that in high school. And even, I think we went to like every museum you could imagine when we were on the road. And I don't remember that. That's kind of the hush-hush history.
That's a very hush-hush.
Yeah, we were talking about it, and I was wondering if it was perhaps so that there could be reconciliation between Afrikaans and English, that they did not want to accentuate those very bad times, I don't know. It's but it's really very moving to visit the museum. Yeah, definitely.
One of the travel writers that writes in our magazine, Debbie Stone, she's also a member of the International Food Wine Travel Writers Association. She went to Cape Town, I'm going to say 2-3 years ago, Nancy. I might get it wrong, but she went to Kirsten Bosch Gardens and, of course, Stellenbosch and the wine country, and that's it. When you think about, all the wineries, those big, the wine tasting rooms are like these grand, and they're very Dutch style, right?
Yeah.
Because you got the Dutch East Indian
really
trading company there. But she went to, because I always think, when we left, it was that whole part of apartheid was going on, of the change. And she went to a museum. She said I think it was downtown Cape Town, that kind of shows what happened and kind of breaks it down so you understand the different cultures. Have you been to that?
Well, I don't know. There are a few museums that, even at the castle, when you learn, in Cape Town, there's the 5 Point Castle.
That's right.
And they have a wonderful exposition there of that. And then the Apartheid Museum, of course, in Johannesburg.
Oh.
It's fantastic. I've been there a few times. And what is so nice, I feel, is that also, once again, the gesture of reconciliation, which is something I think the rest of the world can learn from. That there's a wonderful push for reconciliation. When you go out of the museum, they play the national anthem. And after apartheid was abolished, Nkosi Sikeleli became the national anthem, but they retained Afrikaans sections of the old, what's it now again? And the English.
I remember it
so.
now.
Yeah, it's really incredible that they
van onze hemel.
Yes, they kept that one. The national anthem. That was where was my brain now? Yeah, that was what they did. Now, in fact, my next tour that I want to do with a group is actually a wine, concentrating on the cultures and the art of the in the wine route, on the wine route. Because there's so many wine routes in the Cape, but I've selected certain wineries that also have, like Pierneef, who's a very famous South African artist, exhibits of artists or sculptures, and the food, of course, the cuisine, which is very unique in the Cape especially, but also they've incorporated the one restaurant, Gold restaurant in Cape Town. It's a friend of mine who has it, and they have African cuisine there.
Oh, wonderful.
Plus, it's just a wonderful restaurant to go to and get a complete immersion in African culture. Yeah.
We miss samosas.
Oh my gosh, I think we found. I get annoyed because half of the samosas are not good in this country. Like not saying they're not good.
No,
they're just
not the same.
It's
just not right.
Like I miss curry bunnies and bunny chow and all. I want all of samosas. I found the best samosas in this country in a small town called Dinuba in Central California. It's right outside Sequoia National Forest, and we were having a tourism, meeting dinner thing, and ended up in a pizza place. It's a Manhattan pizza place, and it's run by Indians, and so it was the real deal. And I was like, that's the best samosas I've had. I had to go to a small town in the middle of California to find them.
To get it.
But that's the thing when you talk about all these different cultures, the food is incredible. And boerewors, of course,
Boerewors.
You really can't get that kind of sausage for a barbecue in this country. There's something in the spicing mix that they use inside the meat that you can't just go get regular sausage and think you're going to have a real braai. You have to get
the meat is different. Yeah, the meat tastes different.
Yeah, well, like today I had lamb chops, and you can't really get lamb chops readily. They actually spoiled me terribly because yesterday we had lamb roast.
Oh my gosh.
Something you don't really get. That's why traveling is so fantastic. Even going to Tanzania now to eat the local food, and you mustn't compare it with what it's like in the United States. You must enjoy what there is in the country, and really immerse yourself. Yeah.
I miss samp and beans now. Now I'm really hungry.
Samp and beans.
Samp and beans. I know, Nancy, that wasn't your favorite. Ugali, well, Ugali's Kenyan, right? Putu, South Africa.
Kenyan, right? Putu,
Putu, oh my gosh. And
Putu is
Papenvors,
Oh, Papenvors.
Papenvors.
Right.
Oh man, you're making me hungry.
Chakalaka.
Chakalaka, that's right. Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's tomato and onion based thing.
That's why I eat so much salsa here, is because of the chakalaka, because I ate so much of that there. So I'm trying to I'm trying to retain my flavors. But you're talking about the Cape, and you've got the garden route. I love that you have the map in your book too. And the garden route in Tsitsikamma National Forest, that area is so gorgeous. But you went to the Cape, so there's the Cape Point, and then you went to Cape Agulhas. And so it's about learning where the actual point of Africa is. There's 2 points.
Yeah. And another thing about the food is the one song that I taught the South Sutu people, the waterblommetjies. Waterblommetjies, the water like watercress, water lilies, that you make a stew from. And that was really something very special. Actually, if you go on Amazon and they're on my author page, you can hear my choir sing. There's a link there to them singing the song. Yeah.
So I saw that you had a QR code on one of the pages next to that song in your
Yeah,
book.
unfortunately, that one there was something
does it
that went
do?
wrong. It did not. It
Oh.
did not actually take. So we will have to
Oh,
take the book off the market and reprint it again with a. I
oh,
don't know where the mistake slipped in, but the connection is faulty. So
oh,
I did put it on Amazon though on my author page, so one
Oh,
can
oh,
visit
okay.
it there.
Mm.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. That's cool. That's cool.
that was
That-
very special. Yeah.
oh
Mhm.
man,
Wow,
I
cool.
love the singing over and teaching the
Mhm.
choir. That has got to you just the voices are so angelic and powerful at
Mhm.
the same time.
Yeah.
When you hear the singing of Africa as a continent, to me if you are into music, you should go to Africa. It should be the
Oh
first
yeah,
thing.
just even their
Yeah.
drumming
Oh.
is amazing.
Yeah. Now
You
at this
know,
golden
that's
restaurant, they actually have a drumming session where they lead the audience in drumming, and it is
oh
wonderful.
wow.
It's an incredible
Wow.
experience. Yeah.
I bet.
Now, are you going to take people to the
Mm.
Cape? Wait, to see, because I remember Nancy and I, we've talked about this on shows going, here you are at the final point at the tip of Africa and you see the oceans meet and it's crazy windy
Yes.
and there were baboons running everywhere.
Oh
Did you
gosh.
experience the baboons when you
Yeah,
went?
not at Cape Agulhas, not the Cape Agulhas, it's
That was
not
where
there.
Vasco da Gama was, right? Wasn't he? Didn't he land
Yeah,
at the
yeah, he did circle the Cape, yes. But the baboons are really at Cape Point.
That's right.
Cape
Mhm.
Point is where
Right.
the currents meet.
That's,
And
Yes.
the Cape Agulhas is the most southern point.
that's
And
right.
then, yeah, that's where the oceans split, shall we say. But the warm current and the cold current actually comes together at Cape Point, which is a little confusing. But that's the restaurant there also, where two oceans meet, is
Mm.
at Cape Point. There you get the baboons, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
You've got to
they
be
shove
careful.
your food through a window and then they close the bars and then you turn around and there's all these baboons going, okay, hand it over. And they do take your food.
Yeah, you
I mean,
don't
you
argue
just
with
throw
them.
No, you don't. You just throw the food and run the other way.
So when you do
That's
the
fun.
wine route, the next tour, when you take people on the wineries, are you going to go to De Hoop or any of the areas so they can experience the
Oh, that's a
nature side
beautiful,
of South Africa?
that's a beautiful area.
Well, with the wine route, it's mostly Stellenbosch,
Okay.
Mhm.
Franschhoek, Paul, but you can also extend, and go towards Robertson or Worcester. It depends. I customize every tour. So it depends how long the people want to go, because then you work accordingly,
Right.
So that's the way I'm going to do it. Sometimes I work in the garden route as well, because then you also get Botrevier and Hermanus, and there's some fabulous wineries and art places along that route now.
Oh yeah, like
And
George and
Mhm.
Knysna. Knysna, I remember really
Knysna.
amazing art galleries in Knysna and
Mhm.
George.
yeah, and then in Knysna, I like to take people to where they sleep with the elephants. You can sleep under the same roof as the elephants, where your lounge overlooks the area where the elephants come in and out. They're free to roam in and out. So sometimes they come and sleep there, So you are actually in your bedroom and you can hear the elephants right next door.
I don't remember
Cool.
that. Is that new? That's got to be new.
No, I don't remember that
It's
either.
been,
I think that's new.
I think about 8 years or 10 years,
Okay.
possibly now.
Yeah.
I remember
Yeah, it's
Chamois
newer.
being out on the garden route.
Mhm.
Chamois, is that more by
Glory is higher up here, the Eastern Cape, yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I usually take people to Kariga there, Kariga
Oh yeah,
Game
Kariga
Reserve.
Park.
Yeah, Kariga's wonderful. They've
Wow.
expanded a lot. And they're fabulous. Yeah, I take them there. And my brother
There's
actually has a
so
little
much.
farm along the way there. So
Cool.
sometimes take people there
Yeah.
to go canoeing on the Cap River.
Oh,
So,
wow.
Wow.
yeah.
In the Fish
There's
River, you
so
were talking
much to
about that.
do there.
I know.
There's
Like
so much.
just that whole the Eastern
Mm.
Cape I always thought was like a hidden gem that people didn't really know how much there was. I mean, you can see penguins. That's important.
Mhm. Yeah.
You see penguins in two places. You see the penguins there in the Cape, near Cape Point, and Muizenberg, in that area, Fishhook, and then the other place is Betty's Bay, and that is so. A few people know about it. So you've got a huge African penguin colony there, and that's on your garden route as well. So that's really nice to do.
Did you expect this when you were a child growing up? Did you think you were going to end up traveling into all these remote areas of South Africa, come over to the States, and then your teaching career? Because most, teachers will go in, I'm going to stay in this school, get married, and this is where I'm going to teach forever. But you seem to be one of the, like a traveling nurse.
Yeah, but funny enough, my dad called our house the United Nations because, because I had a Dutch boyfriend and a German one and a Norwegian one. And an Afrikaans
one for every week. Change it out.
It's like here.
That's funny. How did you end up living in the game parks?
Well, I did not actually write my husband into the book, because if I had to do that, the whole book would have been about all his experiences, So he was the warden of the Sabi Sand Game Reserve.
Oh,
and
okay.
Wow.
I got there, yeah.
Oh, wow. Wow. We're going to have to put you on a show with our friend Rondi. She ended up, she's from America, and her sister, her twin sister, really wanted to go to Africa, and Rondi went instead. And she met a game warden and fell in love and moved to South Africa. And we swear that we've met each other. And she's in Tucson area. And I don't know, but we're all talking about what it was like to be women in South Africa, especially, Nancy and you at that time frame. Yeah. It was also a time where women were not allowed in certain areas, which when we first got there, right, Nancy, you got kicked out of a restaurant. For being a woman. Yeah.
Wow.
This was like men only at that one time. Then we got there in the 80s.
It was a hotel. It was a hotel bar that
served lunch and dinners.
Yes. And so I walked in and everybody just stared. I'm like, what?
I think it was
I've got clothes on. What?
Yeah, Pretoria.
No, it's fine.
Life has changed. The Union, I think it was the Union Hotel. Does that sound?
Union Hotel. Union Hotel. It sounds as if it would be like that.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how it's changed, and for women going around, because I don't see many women doing that, going, just around Africa.
Well, it's just gonna go and get some lunch.
No, it's changed. Yeah, there's absolutely no restriction on women here. I mean, South Africa is wide open for anybody to go anywhere.
That's so funny.
I love it.
Things change.
Well, I have to tell you, I've really enjoyed following you on social media with your recent adventures through Africa. And I'm going, oh, she's in Mount Kilimanjaro. Oh, she's here. She's in the Serengeti. Cool. You're making us very homesick. But yes, I encourage everyone to obviously get your book. Again, everyone, it's Elsa-Van-Der-Byl, and that's Vanderbyl, Van-Der-Byl, and you can get it on Amazon or go to her website, travelswithelsa.com. And again, the book is called Hippos-Hotspots-Homelands, an educator's journey in South Africa during apartheid and beyond. And we want to thank the International Food, Wine, Travel Writers Association for being our partner in our second Tuesday and second Friday shows every month, focusing on food, wine, and travel, destinations and travel writing, just the whole craft of it. It really is about boosting responsible tourism. And I think they've done an excellent job, especially over the last few years, dealing with COVID. And, it's just been, they've done an incredible job, and their conference is back on this year. It is November 8th through 11th in St. Petersburg, Florida. So if you're a destination or anybody in the world of tourism and travel writing, go check out ifwtwa.org. So I'll go there. And thank you all for joining us. Keep up with us at bigblendradio.com. We are Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern time. And I don't know what time in South Africa, but we're there. Once we can either listen as it goes live or anytime on demand. But thank you so much, Elsa. It's been a real pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Tot
It's fun.
ziens.
Tot
Tot
ziens.
ziens.